Hey there. So my next guest is in the academic space, more on the sports side of things, but it covers the esports. And so she's at her university building up the esports club scene. And she also on the side has a nonprofit group focused on diversity and inclusion in esports. And she is trying to meld the two, trying to increase the different representations in the community. This was a fantastic interview. She and I laughed a lot. She was a wonderful person. I know you're all going to love this one. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today, I have a very special guest with us. I have Cybbi Barton. Hey there, Cybbi. How's it going?
It's going good. How are you?
It's a beautiful sunny day in Las Vegas. How about yourself?
Yo, it's a beautiful sunny day in Michigan. So we are really appreciative of the weather that we have today.
Which part?
I'm in Ann Arbor, okay. Michigan. So right outside Detroit. And we've been hibernating for a very long time. So after I get off the phone with you, I'm heading outside.
I did 9 years in Akron, Ohio, so I understand lake effect snow.
You get it. You totally get it.
All right. So Cybbi, I like getting this show started just right into it. So why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Absolutely. So talking about how cold it is in Michigan, I'm originally from Texas, and I born and raised my entire life until I turned 21, 22. And after I graduated from Texas Tech University, I went to grad school at Western Kentucky University and spent a couple of years there getting my master's degree. I graduated from there, went to Penn State and started my professional career there for 2 years, and then thought, hey, I'm not cold enough. Let's go to Michigan. So I moved to Michigan, and I've been here over 2 years now. So that's like my career if we're interviewing for a job answer for you. But other than that, I'm an extrovert. I love talking to people. I love meeting new people. So COVID is kind of a bummer. But outside of that, I also love playing video games and being able to connect with people there. It's always been a part of my life. Like I had an older brother. So you can imagine that everything he did, I had to do because I wanted to be cool. And video games was one of those. And so I've played my entire life, and then it got to a point where it was an opportunity for a career. And so I lead the esports program at the University of Michigan. And I'm also involved with a nonprofit called Queer Women of Esports. And I run some roles over in that space as well. So a lot of my time is dedicated to video games and my career, which kind of go hand in hand. But I love being out and about. I love meeting new people and having a good time.
Fantastic. I love it. All right. Yeah. Now, so this is the Gamerpreneur Podcast.
Yeah.
You gave me a little bit about your gaming background, but I do need your gamer cred. When did you first start playing video games?
Oh gosh, this is the worst because I started playing the worst video game that you probably could when you were younger. So my brother had GTA, and that's what I started playing, which is terrifying to think about now. would not recommend. But that was the first game that I remember playing. And then I remember playing like Super Nintendo and Mortal Kombat, 007, GoldenEye, all of that good stuff. And that's one of the first earlier memories that I have of playing video games. But I was lucky enough, privileged enough to have a video game console in my family. And so everybody in the neighborhood would come over and we would play Sonic or whatever game it was of the decade of the year. So that's where it all started.
Beautiful.
Forever.
And it obviously continued your love. What do you play today, if anything?
I love playing Fortnite. I get a lot of heat from the kids in my life about playing Fortnite, but I love playing the video game. It's really fun. It's always updating. There's another video game. It's called Detroit Becoming Human that I've played a lot lately, and that is really cool. It's a, virtual reality in some ways, and so I haven't played a game like that before, but I love that game. So I might be dabbling in some other type of themes besides Fortnite, but Fortnite takes most of my time.
Oh, wonderful. All right. And how do you feel about calling these people kids when they're in college?
Well, see, listen, sometimes you get those like 10-year-olds that are just wiping out your whole squad. And I play mostly with people my age as far as my team, and we'll get crunched by some squad. And we're like, I bet those were 10-year-olds. They have to be 10-year-olds. But yeah, I also call my students kids because sometimes I have that like mama bear instinct. I got to protect them. They're my kids. So it's an endearing term.
That's cute. All right. One more gaming question, then we're going to get to like the esports and business side of things.
Yeah.
If you had to pick one game, it's your all-time favorite. Most gamers hate this question for some reason. Which one is it?
It's because it's a tough question. All-time favorite game, it has to be GoldenEye on like the N64. I loved that game. I played it a lot when I was younger, and I think it was something I was good at too. So I was like, oh wow, it's always nice when you are good at something.
Have you gone back and played that? You know how hard it is to play that game now with that N64 controller because you have to hold the R button to aim. Like,
it's trash. I haven't played it. I remember when I was younger, like having my older brother, he would always break the little toggle at the center, and so all our controllers were already hard enough to play on because they were always breaking. But I can't imagine how horrible it is going back now.
All right, Cybbi, let's get over to the entrepreneur part. So you kind of gave us your academic career, and you ended up, you said the University of Michigan or Michigan University. I want to make sure I get that one right because it depends. Schools care.
They do care, and you are correct.
Well,
so
which one was it?
The University of Michigan.
University of Michigan. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Now, I lived in Ohio for 9 years. Like I said, everybody seemed to hate Michigan for some reason. So it's not me. I don't care. Was that the extent of your professional career? You just went straight from school into the university?
Yeah. So in my career field, the typical route is you go to grad school at an institution and you are getting your master's degree, but you're also working within the recreational department and spending a lot of your time and preparing for your career during those 2 years or however long. And so when I graduated, I had a job at Penn State University, but I wasn't doing esports with my career at that point. And while I was at Penn State, you could see this huge rise of esport programs on university campuses, which wasn't always there. I would say in the last 4 years, that's really taken off to the point where it is today is crazy to think about. So towards the last part of my second year at Penn State, I saw a position open at the University of Michigan for a club sports position, which is student orgs, but the traditional sport world. And it was combined with esports. And they didn't have an esports program at the time. So I saw that as an opportunity to get involved with esports and to create something at an institution as massive as the University of Michigan. So
I don't think you told us what your degree was in.
Sport and recreation administration was my master's, and then radio broadcasting was my undergrad. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go somewhere else. So to everybody listening, you can do literally whatever you want to do. It does not matter.
Yes, you can. It doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Yeah. So that's what I studied.
Okay, beautiful. And you ended up at the University of Michigan, and what do you do there? And not just specifically your title, but what is your role?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my official title is the program manager for club sports and esports. And what that means to people not in the field or not familiar is we have a club sports program, which is around 30 clubs that are traditional sports, your softballs, baseballs, lacrosse, rugbies. They're all student-led organizations. I oversee them, make sure they're following policies and procedures, being the mama bear, making sure they're nice and safe. And then I also oversee our esports program, which is similar in a lot of ways to our traditional sports. It's a student-led organization. We have a variety of different games, right? So instead of sports, it's like League of Legends, Hearthstone, Overwatch. So I oversee their operations, their competitions, making sure they're following process and procedures. And also the huge part of this, it sounds very transactional, but the best part and my favorite part of my job is we have these students, they're learning a lot of transferable skills in leadership roles that they're in with their team or with their organization. And that's going to help them be better humans after they graduate. Even if it's a career, cool. If it's not a career, that's cool too. So that's the goal of my job. And for our department, that's our mission, is to create better students in a variety of different ways, not necessarily just competition and winning, even though that would sound like it would make sense at the University of Michigan. Like, we are good at some things, but we're better at developing these students. And so a lot of my day-to-day work looks like that, how we're assessing that and how we're saying that we're successful in doing that.
Okay, that's very interesting. Now I got to ask, is the esports side of things, you do all sports, but the esports side of things, do you find that you have to like fight with the administration, or you have to push a little bit harder to get them to understand that side of things?
That is an awesome question. So the fact that there was an open role for this position, to me, that was, okay, there's already administration support in some way, that they saw this as an opportunity to create a position, a full-time position. So within our department, there was not pushback, and everybody was supportive. We did, have questions and people thinking about the program critically and how it fits into our values. When we're seen as like, you go there to play sports and to lift weights and to take group X classes and all of this stuff, how does esports fit into this? So I appreciate that from everybody, is thinking critically about something. But pushback wise, I think you see that really everywhere, because there's still a stigma of esports and what gamers are supposed to look like. And I'm not even going to say it because y'all all are thinking the same thing, which is simply not true, or it's not true anymore. This is an incredible industry that has a lot of avenues for people to be successful. And it doesn't even have to mean that you're a great competitive player. There's so many different avenues of opportunity with broadcasting, with marketing, with sponsorships. The list goes on. It's very similar to the ecosystem of a traditional sports, like the NFL, the WNBA, all of that. So I do think when I talk to my colleagues across the country in different recreational programs at universities and institutions and colleges, they do have pushback from administration, because either it's they want to do it, whoever's in my role wants to do it, and the higher administration is not seeing the value of it, or it's flip-flopped, or it's other groups on campus that's prohibiting them.
Okay. Now, I appreciate that you bring up that stigma, because the stated mission of this show is actually to dispel that myth by showcasing gamers just like you doing incredible things, right?
Let's do it. Yes.
I would like to ask you, though, from your perspective, what do we need to do to dispel that myth, to get rid of that stigma? Do we got to approach the parents? Do we just have to wait for enough generations to die off? Or like, where are we at?
Absolutely. I think about this and a lot of different challenges in just the world, and it's education on what esports is. And I think what we're starting to see is parents are noticing that their kids are playing video games, and sometimes you have the parents who are like, go outside, go play, and that's good, but they're also playing video games. And I think people are starting to realize, okay, our kids can play these video games. They can get good. They can go to college on a scholarship for esports. They can play on a professional team after they graduate or before they graduate. There's that streamline of, it's not just playing video games anymore. It's a career, it's a lifestyle, it's something that can support you financially. And so with that, and then all the other like broadcasting pieces. So what my graduate degree was in, they're talking about how they're incorporating esport academics like throughout their college. And so I think people are starting to figure it out, that it's more than just playing video games at home. And there's so many opportunities of what what people are already trying to do. You're trying to go to college, you're trying to do it without having to pay so much money, and learning that it is, it's so much bigger than that. And even the stereotype of, you're just sitting in a chair or you're eating unhealthy. There's science behind all of this, that like you need to stretch before you play and you play better. You need to eat better. You need to have better posture. I have the worst posture. I know a lot of people do, but gamers don't. And so I don't know. I think education, there's just so much to learn about esports and to begin to dismantle that stigma. It's going to take a long time, but I think we're getting there based off of parents seeing their kids and the opportunities that they could potentially have. I have parents email me all the time, like, hey, you got scholarship for this. It's happening.
Beautiful. I'm so glad to hear that. All right. Now, your other organization, please tell us more about that.
Yeah. So with club sports.
Yes. Oh,
yeah.
No.
Queer Women of Esports?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, yes, I can. I'm glad you're sitting down. So Queer Women of Esports is a nonprofit, like I said, that is focused on how we are making the world of gaming more inclusive and more safe for anybody that isn't a white male, honestly. And we see this a lot with competition and competitive gaming play, how toxic the world of esports can be. And I'm sure you know, being involved with this work, but it is really hard to play a video game as a woman. And it's a mission of ours to begin to destroy that, honestly, and how we're supporting our people in our communities, no matter like anybody. I know we have our Queer Women of Esports, but it is so much deeper than that. So we're very much in the early stages of this group and figuring out how we are going to fulfill our mission. But we do a lot of great work already. We have streams that are broadcasted Wednesday and Friday. Wednesday is just gaming and the typical stuff you see on streams, but Fridays are more educational. So that's another piece too, kind of what we were talking about earlier about how we're, you know, breaking down that stigma and education. This whole month is dedicated to Black creators on the internet and some of the challenges that they see, and talking about that on Fridays during our panel discussions. And it's awesome. It's a great community. We have a Discord server, so there's ways for people to get involved. But it's a fastly, rapidly growing organization that I think is doing the work that needs to be done for esports to truly be a place for everybody.
Okay, wonderful. Now that's incredible what you're doing. Now, since I try to focus on the business side of things, what are some of the challenges you're facing in promoting that organization and growing that organization and in promoting your mission?
Yeah. So with Queer Women of Esports, I think the challenges right now, so currently how esports exist and who is making money and all of the, you know, the good things about esports are people not within our community of LGBT, of Black folks. It's very much the other way around. So I think the challenge is now it's not only that we're like behind the starting line, but we have all these barriers to overcome before we even get to that starting line. And so thinking of it in a business aspect of it, I think that the challenges are right now and are going to be just the recognition and the publicity of our group. And I say that thinking of when I was a little girl playing video games, I remember getting heat from either my brother or like my brother's friends about playing, or I remember like actively sweating, knowing that I have to beat my brother's friends or they're just gonna like talk trash the entire rest of the day. And so it's kind of funny to think about, but it's also a real thing that people experience now. And so I think with more publicity and this group being more well known, it could be an opportunity for a baby Cybbi to say, how cool, there's a group just for me, like exactly how I identify, or a group that's just inclusive and supports you. And thinking of what that could have been for me back then is life-changing. So I'm hoping once we get this group more well-known and established, and to be able to provide opportunities for our community or people to enter our community, we'll be in a better spot. But I do think those are some of the challenges that are present right now.
All right, that's so wonderful. I love it. Now, how do you balance these two? You have a full-time position, you've got this nonprofit you're also running. Like,
Yeah.
How do you have time to sleep and play video games?
Right. It's like I work on a computer, I do QWE on the computer, and then I play on my computer. So it's like the fun screen and then the not so fun screen. It definitely is challenging, and I'm not doing a great job at it right now. And I think obviously my career comes first. That's my priority. But that in itself, being split into two different roles with club sports, the traditional sports, and with esports is a whole full-time job. Like there are so many different things and responsibilities that go into that. So that does take a lot of my time. And with QWE, it is in the afternoons, later at night. So that's a little bit helpful, but it's still a lot of work, and it's good work. So that doesn't make it feel like work. But what I see a lot in my friends and people that are involved with esports is you get sucked into it because it is things that you like to do, or it's things that you're passionate about. And sometimes you do have to legit step away from the computer, go outside. Like if you have a dog, great, take them on a walk. So the balance right now, I'm not doing a great job. I'm going to be honest with you, but I do recognize that it is a challenge that I'm having right now, and trying to think of ways of how to take a break from the screen, especially since right now, this is all I do is this. We're working remotely for the university. So all of it is in front of a screen. So trying to think of ways to get outside. And now that it's 40 degrees outside, I'm going to go swimming or something. This is magical.
So it's supposed to be like 74 degrees here in Las Vegas today. And like the locals are still wearing sweaters because it's so cold.
No, that is unacceptable. You need to tell them.
All right. Cybbi, I'd like to talk a little more personally if I can.
Sure.
So if you could go back in time, like we got a time machine, you and I, we pop back in time. I want you to go back to talk to little Cybbi when she's sitting there playing on the SNES with her brother, and you could explain to her life path, everything that's going to happen, all of the ups, all the downs, all the good, all the bad, and kind of tell her, how she could have a better life than you had. There's one thing you had to make sure she understood. What would you tell her?
Oh my gosh. I'm like getting goosebumps by that question. That's good. If I could go back in time and tell little Cybbi something so important about her life, I would tell little Cybbi that it is okay to, you have to take up space. I would tell little Cybbi, you have to take up space. And little Cybbi would be like, what does that mean? And I would say, you need to take up space when you are being told that like you're too loud at playtime, or you're in high school and it's, you shouldn't come out as gay in high school in Texas because that is terrifying. I would tell her to take up space then. I would tell her to take up space in undergrad to when she felt like she wasn't smart enough to be in those classes or to be in that degree or to do the things that she was doing. I just see that thread. I could tell you something every step of my life of how I should have taken up more space than what I did. And I think that would have prepared me for where I am at now, and to feel a little bit less like an outsider and more like I belong here because I have done the work, or I have the education, I have the knowledge. So that's what I would go back and tell little Cybbi.
Wonderful.
And she would be like, leave me alone. I need to finish this video game.
Right. Okay. Now, Cybbi, here's kind of another question. It's a little more tough. See, I believe that we learn the most in our life from our failures, not necessarily our successes, because when you succeed, you may not know what happened. But when you fail, you got to take a look at it. You got to figure out what went wrong to be able to move past it and succeed the next time. So I'd like to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life? And what did you learn from it?
My biggest failure in life, I have a little sister. She's a year younger than me, and she is the best person in the entire world. Like, I know you think you're great and like your kids are great, but like my sister is the best. But the biggest failure, I like, without going into too much detail, I ended up leaving my sister in a situation that she shouldn't have been left in, and where she didn't feel supported and didn't feel like she had an older sister to rely on. And I see that as a failure because I wasn't there in the way that I should have been. And what I learned from that, and what I continue to think about every day, is for the people in your life, it's hard to stay connected. It's hard to, keep up with everybody. And if you don't have Facebook or anything like that, you really don't know what's going on. But what that has taught me is to show up. Like, just show up. Whatever friendship you have, if somebody calls you and they need you, just show up. If you haven't talked to them in 5 years or however long, that's what's important. And so I think that is the biggest life lesson that I've learned. And it shows up in my personal life. It shows up in my career of showing up when you can and when you're needed to. So I'd say that was my biggest failure, but like also my biggest learning.
Okay. Thank you for sharing that. Now, on the flip side, because I don't like ending on that kind of note, what is something that you're working to improve on yourself today?
What this pandemic has taught me is like, there's a lot of things that I don't know, but we have access to this crazy internet thing. You can literally learn anything. So far, my biggest success is the computer that I'm talking to you on right now is a computer that I built. And in a lot of ways, it's like an adult Lego set of like putting together Legos. And like, I played Legos when I was little. But it was something that I knew nothing about and that I researched for months. I budgeted for months, and then I made it, and I did everything right the first time.
It actually worked the first time you turned it on?
It worked, yeah.
Oh, you're lucky.
I know, yeah. All the videos and articles I read, they were like, okay, the test is like the first time you turn it on. If it doesn't turn on, and I was like, it turned on fine for me. I think that's like, I know that it seems kind of small maybe in some ways, but I am so proud of the way that I researched everything and read manuals and put things together the correct way to get what I wanted, which was a working computer.
I've been building my own computer since I was 13. I can't say once it's turned on the first time.
Yeah, I felt very proud when that was like the thing that happened. It turned on. I was like, okay, great, I'm done. Like, I can't touch it anymore.
All right, Cybbi, this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
How do people find you? Where are you at on social media, contact information, all of that, please?
Yeah, you can find me, like, I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on everything except Facebook at this point. But LinkedIn, Cybbi Barton, Barton. My Twitter handle, now that you say it, and I can't remember, is Cybbi B. So Cybbi on Twitter. And I link a lot of stuff to my Instagram on there too. But definitely, yeah, come follow me. I share good stuff, some stuff we need to work on, but it's all good stuff. And I'm really funny, okay? I'm really funny.
Absolutely. All right. As we wrap this up, do you have any final thoughts you want to share, or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
I think you got it all. I really appreciate talking about me, but talking with you about me.
All right. Cybbi, thank you so much. I genuinely do appreciate you coming on with us today.
Of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.
That's right. I like that.